I think I might accidentally hold some kind of world record, the only guy on earth to have his house demolished by an HOA he wasn't even a member of. Not the kind of claim you brag about at parties, you know. But if you're up for a story that's part comedy, part suburban horror show, and 100% proof that some people really shouldn't be in charge of anything, grab a coffee. Because once you hear this, you'll never look at a beige mailbox or a crabby neighbor the same way again. So it starts with this plain envelope, right? Not a lawsuit, not a threat, just an envelope tucked under the rusted handle of my granddad's old mailbox. Probably older than half the trees in the county. That mailbox set in concrete back in '68 probably could survive a tornado, but it was about to be the first domino in a pretty wild chain of events. See, my granddad built that house himself on 5 acres back when the area was nothing but pasture and oaks. Solid brick, all sweat and blueprints, a home with roots literally and figuratively. When he passed, he left it to me. I'm a federal investigator, which sounds cooler than it is. It's mostly paperwork, white-collar crime, bad coffee, and endless knots nobody else wants to untangle. For a year, I let the place be, just drove out every couple weeks to mow, check the locks, breathe in the silence. I planned to fix it up eventually, maybe escape city life for some honest peace. And it was peaceful until the bulldozers showed up on the land behind me. That's when the Gables at Serenity Creek was born, a subdivision with about as much soul as a dentist's waiting room and lawns so green they glowed at night. Of course, with the subdivision came the HOA, and at the top of that food chain, Barbara Westwood. My first encounter, not face-to-face, her signature all loopy and smug, scrawled at the bottom of a letter that welcomed me to the neighborhood and said I owed $600 in dues plus a late fee. I laughed. Clearly a mix-up. I mean, my land was never part of their subdivision. I had the plat maps, the deeds, you name it. I sent her a polite note with the paperwork to prove it, figuring that'd be the end of it. Yeah, that didn't happen. Next thing I know, a thicker envelope lands in the box, dripping with legalese and fines, $750 for my illegal mailbox, a non-compliant front door, and get this, overgrown oaks. The same oaks my granddad saved from the developers. The fines kept stacking up, her signature kept getting bigger, and my patience started to wear thin. See, people like Barbara, they don't just want to enforce rules. They want to bend reality until it fits whatever fantasy world they're running. I call their office, try to get her on the line. No dice. She doesn't take calls, sir. You'll have to write the board. And then the clincher. Our records show your parcel is part of Phase 2 annexation. Annexation. You can't just annex a guy's property into an HOA like it's a pizza order. I hadn't signed anything my granddad never would have, and the county records backed me up, but she doubled down, told me I owed $400 now, due in 30 days. That's when it got personal. I stopped being a polite neighbor and started doing what I do best, digging. Every public record, every plat map, every board member's name. Sure enough, my land was never part of their little kingdom, but the HOA paperwork had invented a whole new reality to say otherwise. Barbara and her husband, Gary, he sold luxury cars. Go figure, we're running things like a family fiefdom. So I hit back, sent a certified cease and desist with notarized deeds, county maps, state statutes. Keep this up and you'll see me in court. Thought that'd scare them off. For about a month, maybe. Then I drive out to check the house and find this older guy standing on the property line with binoculars, looked more like a retired scout leader than a troublemaker. Turns out he was George Henderson, 2 houses down, former land surveyor, knew my granddad, and had just about had it with the HOA, too. He'd been on the architectural committee before he quit in disgust. She's after your big oak, he says, wants it gone for her rose garden. Apparently that's all it took to set her off. But George was more than just another disgruntled neighbor. He was my eyes and ears on the inside. He warned me Barbara was planning to put a lien on my place, hoping to wear me down until I'd sell cheap. She'll drag you through the mud until you give up, he said. That's her playbook. He was right. Sure enough, next envelope I get is a lien notice full of fake fines and legal threats with a threat to foreclose, all signed by her, of course. I brought in my lawyer, Sarah, a shark, in a suit she saw through their nonsense in about 2 minutes flat. "We'll get it tossed," she said, "and then we'll sue them for slander of title." But lawsuits don't move fast, and while we filed motions, Barbara got busy. While I was overseas for work, taking depositions on a pension fraud case, I get a text from George. "They're here at your house with a bulldozer." I scramble to pull up my security feed. There's Barbara Crisp pantsuit grinning like she's starring in her own home renovation show, except this was demolition. She had a crew chain up the porch and start tearing down the house. I called the sheriff from Switzerland, my lawyer from the airport. By the time anyone showed, it was a pile of bricks and a signed future site of Gable's estates. She even forged a court order to show the cops a bad photocopy fake case number, forged judge's signature. When I landed, the damage was done, but now it was war. Sarah and I mapped out a plan, a massive civil suit for the house, the land, the damages enough to bankrupt them, and criminal charges for the forgery, fraud, destruction of property, and conspiracy. George gave me the inside scoop. The HOA's finances were a mess. Barbara and Gary were drowning in debt, and a developer named Slade had his eye on my land for a townhouse project. Turns out Barbara had paid the demolition crew $15,000 in cash, straight from her husband's shady car lot, hoping a quick teardown would force me to sell. With sworn affidavits from the demolition company records, from Gary's business and George's testimony, I put together a case that would make any prosecutor's mouth water. But I wanted Barbara exposed publicly. I called in a favor at the DA's office, made sure there'd be police on standby, and then I showed up at the next HOA meeting. The room was packed, everybody already buzzing about the lawsuit. Barbara tried to play Queen Bee, but as soon as I plugged in my projector and started showing the evidence, the photos, the maps, the fake documents, the financial trail, you could hear a pin drop. I laid it all out step by step. "This isn't a civil dispute," I told the crowd, "it's a criminal conspiracy." Then I pulled out my badge, federal investigator, right there in front of everyone. Barbara lost it. Tried to shout me down, tried to call security, but when the cops walked in and cuffed her, Gary and their board lackeys, the whole HOA went dead quiet. The DA charged them with everything from mail and wire fraud to criminal conspiracy. The HOA collapsed, my lawsuit settled for more than enough to rebuild, and George got elected the new president. He actually cares about the neighborhood, imagine that. Now I've got a new house built right on the old footprint, modern but true to the original, and those oaks are still standing. Barbara. She got 7 years and a lesson about building kingdoms on shaky ground. But here's the kicker was, I right to go nuclear. Or should neighbors work things out before the lawyers get involved? You tell me, drop a comment, because honestly, there's no HOA rule book for this kind of crazy. And I'd love to hear where you land on justice and neighborhood power trips.